The story begins with a small plane floating amidst the clouds, heading toward America. Inside the cabin, a passenger looks out the window. The view below has completely changed. Panicked, he stops the flight attendant and asks, "Excuse me, why are we deviating from our scheduled route?" The attendant forces a faint smile onto her face and replies, "There is nothing to worry about, sir. The weather on our original route is very bad. The pilot altered the path for safety, and we will now be passing over the Amazon rainforest." Since there were only 8 passengers in the entire flight, no one took this change seriously. Little did they know that this was about to become the most terrifying turning point of their lives. Suddenly, a violent jolt rocks the aircraft, and the entire plane begins to shudder like a toy in the air. Inside the cockpit, the scene is horrifying. Red lights flash ominously. The pilot's eyes are glued to the screen. The GPS system is completely dead. Not a single button on the control panel is working. Drenched in sweat, the pilot screams into the radio with trembling hands to contact the base station. "Mayday! Mayday! Is anyone reading me?" But there is nothing but static. However, the most shocking part is that the pilot's face shows more of a strange regret than fear, as if he knew all along that this was bound to happen. Managing the plunging aircraft with one hand, he pulls out his phone with the other and begins recording one final video with a shaking hand. Staring into the camera lens, the pilot gasps. There were some dark secrets hidden in this flight. Seeing them, I already suspected we wouldn't make it out alive. This is no accident. Before he can finish his sentence, the plane plunges nose first straight down. Through the front windshield, the endless, terrifyingly dense Amazon rainforest and towering mountains approach at a breakneck speed. Death is staring them in the face. The pilot pulls back on the steering yoke with all his might, trying to prevent the plane from crashing directly into the ground, aiming instead to skim the upper canopy of the trees to reduce their speed. That giant bird of iron screeches as it tears through tree branches, skidding for several kilometers. Finally, after an ear-splitting explosion and flying debris, everything comes to a standstill. Amidst the smoke and silence, low groans gradually begin to echo. Miraculously, almost all the passengers are alive, but the rear section of the cabin holds a painful sight. The flight attendant, who hadn't fastened her seatbelt, lies lifeless. Screams break out everywhere. Forgetting their own injuries, people begin checking on one another. Just then, 2 brave passengers rush toward the cockpit to rescue the pilot. But the moment they open the cockpit door, a scream catches in their throats. Several thick, sharp tree branches have pierced through the windshield, impaling the pilot right through his chest. The entire cockpit is stained red with blood, but incredibly, the pilot's eyes are open, and he is still breathing. As the 2 passengers try to clear the debris and the seat with trembling hands to pull the pilot out of this hell, a dangerous sound echoes from outside. Crackle! The plane's wings have caught fire. "Get out! Everyone run outside! The plane might explode!" Voices shout out. All the passengers frantically begin throwing dry dirt and leaves to extinguish the fire, knowing that if this plane burns to ashes, they will have nowhere to shelter in this brutal jungle. After hours of struggle, the fire is finally put out, but the real horror begins now. As the 8 survivors sit together in a circle, the silence begins to haunt them. Every single phone screen displays the exact same thing: no service. This part of the Amazon is hundreds of miles away from human civilization, a place inhabited by fierce tribes and wild predators. Hoping for help without a satellite phone is nothing but self-deception. They are now trapped in nature's most cruel labyrinth. Looking at the dense, suffocating jungle, it was clear that trying to escape on foot was like walking straight into the jaws of death. But the biggest and most terrifying truth was that the outside world had absolutely no inkling that their plane had crashed. In other words, no rescue team was coming to look for them. Amidst this terror, a passenger named Jack steps forward. He senses that if people panic, they will end up fighting and killing each other. In a heavy, commanding voice, Jack says, "If we want to stay alive, we need to become a team. We need to know each other." Beginning his introduction, he says, "I am Jack, an insurance investigator. My job is to catch people's lies and fraud. I was returning to America after solving a case. Jack's sharp eyes scan everyone, as if he is trying to catch a lie on someone's face right at that very moment. Just then, a serious-looking man standing nearby steps forward. My name is Kevin. I used to be a doctor, but now I run a medical equipment business. Kevin immediately drops to his knees to check the pulse of the pilot, who is writhing in pain inside the cockpit. The beam of his flashlight falls on the pilot's throat. Kevin says gravely, his vocal cords are completely damaged. He cannot utter a single word even if he wants to. Hearing this, everyone is stunned. This pilot was their only ticket out of this green prison because only he knew where they were on the map. Keeping the pilot alive at all costs has now become an absolute necessity for everyone. The introductions continue and the layers of mystery begin to unfold. The third passenger, Christy, a social media travel blogger, says she loves exploring the world. But the moment Jack probes into her background, she abruptly goes silent and turns her face away. Her past hid a deep secret. Next in line is Carlos, a massive, muscular wrestler from Mexico who was traveling to America for a championship match. After him, a terrified young couple introduced themselves as Danny and Amy, who were newly married and had boarded this flight with beautiful dreams of their honeymoon. Finally, a middle-aged couple, David and Lisa, introduced themselves. They ran a small hotel and were traveling to America for David's heart surgery to save his life. 8 people, 8 different stories. And now, everyone's destiny is intertwined. Utilizing the cold, analytical mind of an insurance investigator, Jack takes command. This is no time to get emotional. Gather all the plane's food and water in one place. When all the supplies are retrieved from the wreckage, the result is horrifying. The rations are so meager that even if they ration them strictly, they can survive for a maximum of only 3 days. Just then, dark clouds begin to gather in the sky. Jack looks at the plane and delivers a brutal but practical verdict. If a storm hits, we will have to take shelter inside this wreckage. Therefore, we must remove the flight attendant's body from the plane and discard it somewhere far away to make room inside. This proposition sends a shiver down everyone's spine, but driven by the urge to survive, they execute this bitter decision with heavy hearts. Having finished the task, everyone kneels beside the agonizing pilot. Jack looks straight into his eyes and demands, "Is there a satellite phone on the plane? And tell us the truth." The weather was clear. "So how did our plane crash here? What are you hiding?" The pilot's eyes widen with terror. His throat twitches, and he desperately wants to spill some horrific truth, but only blood and groans escape his mouth. Frustrated, Jack turns to Dr. Kevin. "Kevin, treat him! Bring him to his senses!" But Kevin recoils sharply. "Are you out of your mind? Branches are impaling his chest. Saving him requires major surgery. In this hellhole, I have neither anesthesia nor proper instruments. If I touch him, he will die right here in excruciating agony." Helpless, they can do nothing but watch the pilot die. The darkness of the night makes the Amazon jungle even more terrifying. Lisa distributes small portions of food to everyone. Just then, Christy points toward a tall, rocky mountain rising in the distant darkness. "If we climb that peak tomorrow morning, we might get a signal on our phones just for once." A ray of hope ignites, but right then, the sound of the pilot gasping and writhing echoes from the cockpit. His final moments are near. Dr. Kevin realizes that this is no time to sit idle. The pilot will not see the morning sun. Kevin takes a deep breath, rolls up his sleeves, and says, "Get ready. We are performing the surgery right now. Whether he lives or dies is all up to fate now." At Kevin's request, the group searches the wreckage for tools, and what they emerge with makes their skin crawl. An old kitchen knife, a bottle of alcohol for sterilization, and some iron wires. Dr. Kevin pours alcohol over the knife. The pilot is conscious, his eyes wide with stark terror because there is no anesthesia to numb the pain. Kevin raises the knife, and as he makes the incision, a bone-chilling scream from the pilot rips through the silence of the Amazon. A horrific scream of pain rips through the silence. The pilot's entire body writhes in agony, but luck is on their side. The surgery turns out to be far more successful than expected. When Dr. Kevin emerges, Relief is written all over his face. He says, if the pilot rests through the night, he should be in a condition to speak by morning. Everyone breathes a collective sigh of relief, but no one knows that death is waiting for them in that dense darkness. The black silence of the night continues to deepen. In the dead of the night, while everyone is fast asleep, a shadow emerges from the bushes. A black mask covers their face, and their eyes hold nothing but brutality. They creep stealthily toward the wounded pilot. Before the pilot can comprehend anything or cry out, the masked figure forcefully smothers his mouth and nose with full might. The pilot thrashes around in desperation, but within a few seconds, everything goes still. The next morning, when the survivors open their eyes, they are greeted not by relief, but by a horrifying sight. The pilot's body has gone cold. The man who was winning the battle for his life just yesterday is now silenced forever, taking with him the very secret he was about to reveal to everyone. With trembling hands, Dr. Kevin checks the pilot's body and is stunned. There is no infection, no internal bleeding. This death is not natural. A sudden loud sting plays in the BG music. A heavy silence settles among the 8 people present. Everyone begins to look at each other with eyes full of suspicion. But what good is regret now? With heavy hearts, they place the pilot's body beneath the tree next to the flight attendant's corpse, hoping that if a rescue team ever arrives, they will return them to their loved ones. However, in all this chaos, no one notices that the pilot's phone has slipped out of his pocket and fallen to the ground, except for Danny. Danny swiftly conceals the phone. When his fiancée Amy catches him doing this, Danny covers her mouth with his hand and whispers, "Keep quiet, Amy. In this jungle, I don't trust anyone but myself anymore." The mystery deepens further when Danny sneaks back to the corpses. He looks around, takes a deep breath, pulls a knife from his pocket, and severs the dead pilot's finger. He needs it to unlock the phone using the fingerprint scanner. Meanwhile, behind the bushes, David and Lisa are whispering. Lisa, who is a former nurse, looks pale with fear. Gripping David's hand, she says, "David, the pilot was suffocated to death. I have seen patients asphyxiate in the hospital. Their faces turn exactly this shade of dark. Someone stole his breath. And that killer is one of the 8 of us." The ground slips beneath David's feet. But why would anyone kill the pilot? Lisa warns David, "From now on, we must not trust anyone but ourselves." Suddenly, Lisa thinks she hears the rustle of dry leaves. Someone is listening to their conversation. They immediately fall silent. The suspense doesn't stop there. Christy, the traveler, approaches Amy, looks her straight in the eye and says, "Your honeymoon act is quite good, but you can't hide the truth from me." Terrified, Amy breaks down and cries as she spills the truth. "I am a billionaire's daughter, and Danny was our family driver. No one would ever accept our love, so we left everything behind and were fleeing to America." Christy smiles. One veil of lies has been lifted, but the rest of the secrets remain. In the midst of this, Carlos comes running over holding a broken GPS device. "I have good news. If I can fix this and take it to the top of that high mountain, we might get a signal. We can be saved." It feels to everyone as if a light has appeared at the end of a dark tunnel. Carlos explains that his father was an electrician, so he can have it repaired by tomorrow. Jack immediately forms a plan. "All right, tomorrow morning we all climb the mountain." But just then, a sharp scream from Lisa shatters everyone's joy. She is standing next to the empty ration crates. Our food. All of our food has been stolen. The rations that were supposed to last for 3 days have vanished in a single night. Jack and Christy rush toward the wreckage immediately. Looking at the scene, it is clear. This is no work of rodents. Someone has deliberately ruined or hidden the food. Meanwhile, Jack notices that the way Christy is gathering evidence is not something an ordinary girl could do. Jack pins her against the wall. "Whoever you are no ordinary traveler." Christy takes a deep breath and plays her real card. "I am an undercover investigative reporter. Exposing international gangs and dangerous criminals is my job. I lied so that if there is a criminal hiding in this crash, they wouldn't target me. Jack is stunned. This means every single person on this island is wearing a mask. Now, they are on the verge of starving and dying of thirst. Leaving Carlos behind to fix the GPS, the rest of the group heads deep into that dense, unknown, and perilous jungle in search of food and water. They have no idea what they are about to face in the wilderness: hunger, wild predators, or the ruthless killer hidden right among them. Footsteps crushed dry leaves as they moved forward, until suddenly everyone's eyes locked onto the ground. Strange, bright blue mushrooms were growing there. Christy examined them with her investigative eyes, and horror washed over her face. She screamed, "Stop! Don't anybody dare touch these. They are a death trap. Within hours of consuming them, a person dies in excruciating agony." But Christy noticed something else. These mushrooms grow in moisture, which means water is close by. After walking a little further, they found a murky pond. The water was dirty, but it was their only option to quench their thirst. Just as they were brainstorming a way to purify the water, bang! A resounding gunshot shook the entire jungle. Everyone's hearts leaped into their throats. Terrified, they rushed back. The scene before them stole their breath away. David was holding a gun, and the hunted carcass of a monkey lay in front of him. David and Lisa possessed a loaded gun, a dangerous secret they had kept hidden from everyone. Panicking, Lisa offered an explanation. "We didn't want to scare anyone. We only hid it for our own safety." Regardless, all questions were buried in the face of hunger. By cooking that very monkey meat, everyone sated their hunger. Christy and Jack together managed to make the pond water drinkable as well. Death had been averted for today, but Amy could not bring herself to eat the meat. David quietly devoured her share too, thinking that food shouldn't go to waste. Just then, Jack swept his sharp gaze over everyone and asked, "David and Lisa's secret is out. Does anyone else have a deadly surprise like this hidden away?" Breaking the silence, Carlos opened his bag. Inside was nothing but a fighting mask. Carlos smiled. "As soon as the GPS is functional tomorrow, we will all be free from here, so stop suspecting one another." Everyone went to sleep, but they did not know that another corpse awaited them the next morning. In the deep silence of the night, David suddenly began to suffocate. He started writhing on his makeshift bed, while a shadow hidden behind the distant dark trees watched David die with cold eyes. That mysterious shadow pulled a satellite phone from its pocket, meaning there was network coverage on the island, but they had concealed it. They dialed a girl and whispered, "Our plan is going perfectly. Now the game will accelerate." The next morning, the sky was stained red and the entire camp echoed with Lisa's hair-raising scream. David had gone to sleep forever. Dr. Kevin looked at the white froth coming out of David's mouth and spoke with a shudder. "This isn't food poisoning. He has been poisoned with those same blue toxic mushrooms." Lisa went hysterical, screaming, "One of you is killing us off one by one. Who is it?" The poison of terror had contaminated the air. 8 strangers who didn't even know each other. Why were they thirsty for one another's blood? Weeping, Lisa blurted out a secret that stunned everyone. "The pilot didn't die a natural death, he was smothered. I told David about this, and I felt like someone was eavesdropping on us. David was close to the truth, which is why he was eliminated." Just then, Jack's mind raced. He said, "Wait, David ate Amy's food last night. That means the poison was in Amy's food. The killer didn't want to murder David, they wanted to kill Amy." Now, everyone began running away from each other to save their own lives. Just then, in private, Danny showed Amy the pilot's phone that he had hidden. They pressed the play button. The pilot's injured face appeared on the screen, his voice trembling. The plane crash wasn't an accident. It was intentionally brought down. There is a massive secret hidden on this flight. As soon as the video ended, Amy and Danny revealed this truth to everyone. It was now crystal clear that they had become part of a horrifying conspiracy. Suddenly, Carlos shouted, "The GPS device is fixed. We just need to take it to the mountain peak and activate it. But now no one was willing to trust anyone else. If the killer was among them, they would never allow the rescue team to be called. It was decided that Jack would guard the camp below, while Carlos, Dr. Kevin, and Christy would ascend the mountain. 3 people, so that if one turned out to be the killer, the other 2 could team up to overpower them. During the climb, Carlos was casually chewing bubblegum. Christy's eyes suddenly fell upon a discarded gum wrapper on the ground. Her feet froze right there. It was the exact same wrapper that was inside the stolen ration crates. This meant the food hadn't been stolen by anyone else. Carlos was the thief. Christy's heart began to pound violently. Is Carlos the ruthless killer? Without uttering a word, she carefully snatched the GPS device from Carlos's hand and secured it herself so that he couldn't destroy it. Amidst the suspense and sheer exhaustion, after hours of a deadly climb, they finally reached the mountain peak. Cold winds were howling, and a deep, terrifying abyss lay below. Christy stepped forward to set up the device when suddenly, her foot landed on a loose rock and she slipped. Ah! Christy's scream echoed through the entire valley. She was dangling right off the sharp edge of the mountain. The GPS device was about to slip from her hand, and a drop of thousands of feet to her death awaited her below. Dr. Kevin was far away, and standing right in front of Christy was Carlos, with a strange, sinister smile plastered across his face. Will Carlos grab her hand, or will he push her into the deep abyss? Christy was dangling in midair, but the most terrifying part was that their final hope, the GPS device, was also sitting right on the precipice of the slope. One small slip, and everyone would be buried in this hell forever. Disregarding her own life, Christy swung her arm through the air and snatched the GPS. On the other side, Carlos and Dr. Kevin grabbed Christy's hand with all their might. Their veins were bursting and their feet were slipping, but together, the 2 of them hauled Christy and the device back up. This horrific incident melted some of the ice of mistrust among the 3 of them. Christy thought, if one of them were the killer, he could have easily let me die, but they saved my life. Finally, with trembling hands, Carlos installed the device. Kevin pulled out his phone. There was no network on the screen. Everything now depended on this machine. Carlos pressed the button and a green light flared up. He shouted, "It's activated. In a few hours, the signal will reach the world." Amidst the crimson glow of the setting sun, they rushed back down toward the camp with a newfound hope. Down at the camp, the atmosphere had turned into an absolute madhouse. Fear had driven everyone to the brink. The gun was trembling in Lisa's hands as she aimed it at Jack and screamed, "Stay away from me! Any of you could be my husband's killer." On the other hand, Danny's temper was through the roof. Twisting Amy's hand, he said in a violent tone, "From now on, you won't talk to anyone. Whatever I say goes." But there was no love left in Amy's eyes, only terror. She yanked her hand away from Danny. She had realized that in the blindness of love, she had made the biggest mistake of her life by running away with her driver. What did she even know about Danny's past? Danny went mad with rage. "If it weren't for me, Amy, you would be a corpse by now." Amy had never seen this monstrous side of Danny before. The 4 strangers were glaring at each other, looking as if anyone could slit anyone's throat at any moment. Just then, the 3 returned from the mountain and delivered the news. "The GPS is on. A rescue team will be here by tomorrow morning." That night, the 7 survivors ate their final meal in a profound, heavy silence. Everyone had just one goal: to somehow stay alive until morning. In the dead of the night, while the entire camp slept, Carlos was throwing punches into the air alone in the darkness. He was practicing his fighting moves. He was so blinded by his dreams that even on this island of death, he was worried about his diet, and that was the sole reason he had stolen the food. Suddenly, the sound of dry twigs snapping echoed through the dense darkness. Carlos stopped. Someone was standing in front of him, a shadow clad in black clothes. But the most frightening part? That shadow was wearing Carlos's own sinister fighting mask over their face. Before Carlos could comprehend what was happening, the masked figure moved forward with lightning speed and drove the entire knife deep into Carlos's stomach. Darkness clouded Carlos's eyes. A fountain of blood erupted from his mouth, and within a few seconds, his corpse collapsed to the ground. The next morning, the sun rose, but Carlos was missing. Jack said, "We should split up and look for him." But Dr. Kevin interrupted in a cold tone. "If the GPS was working, why hasn't a rescue team arrived yet?" Those innocents were unaware of the bitter truth that in the darkness of the night, that very masked figure had ruthlessly cut the main wire of the GPS. No signal had ever gone out. While searching for Carlos, Kevin and Christy headed toward the mountain. Suddenly, Christy stopped. Dozens of black vultures and birds were circling above a single spot in the sky. Christy's heart sank. "Kevin, there is something over there." Leaving the mountain path, they rushed in that direction. The moment they pushed the bushes aside, screams escaped both their mouths. Carlos's corpse lay trapped between the rocks, his eyes wide open with stark terror. Panting heavily, they ran back to the camp and gasped, "Carlos has been murdered!" Everyone's suspicion immediately shifted to Danny and Amy because Carlos had slept closest to them last night. The game had now turned lethal. The air was thick with tension. Just then, Lisa emptied her pockets while weeping. "Someone stole all the bullets from my gun last night. I only have this one last bullet left that was in my pocket." This meant the killer now possessed bullets as well. Meanwhile, Dr. Kevin dropped another bombshell. "When I treated Danny, I saw a specific tattoo on his back. Only henchmen of dangerous international gangs get such tattoos. Amy, your lover is a criminal." Everyone surrounded Danny. Danny yelled, "No, I was sent to prison on a false charge, and the gang members forcibly branded this mark onto my body there. I am not a criminal." Then, looking at Amy with tears in his eyes, he said, "Yes, initially I came after your money, but now I truly love you, Amy. I won't let anything happen to you." While this argument was still ongoing, the sky suddenly turned pitch black. A ferocious storm and torrential rain enveloped the entire jungle. To save their lives, the 7 survivors ran and scrambled inside the wreckage of the aircraft. Lightning cracked and the storm shook the debris. And then, suddenly, with a loud, tearing crunch, a massive section of the plane's ceiling collapsed. And right behind that broken ceiling, they finally saw the horrifying object that was the real reason behind this entire massacre. Several heavy black bags crashed straight down from the broken ceiling of the airplane. The corner of one bag had torn open. As Jack stepped forward and cleared away the debris, everyone's throats went completely dry. Packed tightly inside the bags were hundreds of packets filled with white powder. The silence of the jungle had now transformed into a horrifying truth. This was no ordinary luggage, but pure drugs worth millions of dollars. Slowly, the pieces of this bloody puzzle began to come together. This airline was running an international drug cartel under the guise of carrying innocent passengers. Perhaps that was why its tickets were so cheap. Danny, whose past had wound through similarly notorious streets, turned pale. He muttered, "This is no small-time business. It's a massive drug operation. Someone found out about this secret, which is why this entire plane was intentionally crashed into this deadly jungle." But the biggest question still hung in the air. If the killer's only motive was these drugs, why were they hunting down humans one by one? Ami's mind went numb with this new revelation of terror. She screamed, "That killer won't leave us alive!" and ran frantically out of the plane into the dense jungle. Danny ran after her, shouting, "Stop, Ami!" Dr. Kevin tried to hold them back, but it was all in vain. Lisa tightened her grip on her gun and stepped into that terrifying darkness to search for Ami. Outside, nature's fury was in full swing. Human voices were drowning in the torrential rain and the rumbling of thunder. Lisa was calling out for Ami in the beam of her flashlight when suddenly a shadow pounced from behind. A gleaming, cold knife sank into Lisa's body multiple times. Blood began to flow into the rainwater. As she lay dying, Lisa gathered all her strength to pull off the masked killer's mask. Her fingers brushed against the mask and slipped. She couldn't see their face. Within moments, Lisa's eyes turned to stone forever. The next morning, When the remaining survivors saw Lisa's blood-soaked corpse, what little courage they had left shattered. The killer was right among them, and they were becoming invincible. Now, nothing but the poison of mistrust remained in the camp. Just then, a massive twist occurred. With lightning speed, Christy aimed her gun straight at Jack's chest. Blood rushed to her eyes. She shouted, "The game is over, Jack. The bullets stolen from Lisa's gun were found in your bag." The matter did not end there. Christy pulled a gleaming black satellite phone out of Jack's bag. This was the exact same phone on which the killer was talking to a girl last night. Jack's face turned stark white, and he began begging for his innocence. "This isn't true. Yes, I stole the bullets because I suspected Lisa was the killer, and I wanted to protect everyone. But this phone isn't mine. Someone planted it in my bag to frame me." Kevin hurriedly said, "Call the rescue team with this phone immediately." But Christy took a cold breath and said, "It's no use. This phone is locked with a military-grade password. Without the password, it's just a plastic box." Everyone assumed that only Jack knew the password. Mad with rage, Danny pounced on Jack, but Kevin stopped him. "If Jack dies, we will never get the password and we will rot right here." They brutally bound Jack with ropes. The terrifying responsibility of extracting the truth from Jack was handed over to Dr. Kevin. Going into the room alone, Kevin asked one last time, "Tell me the password, Jack." Jack repeated the same thing, "I am innocent," and then began a soul-chilling spectacle. Dr. Kevin pulled out his medical instruments and began tearing Jack's fingernails away from the flesh. Jack's agonizing screams ripped through the walls. At that very moment outside, Christy, Danny, and Amy reached the mountain peak once again. Looking at the scene, Christy's suspicion was confirmed. The main wire of the GPS had been cut. This meant they had been living in an illusion all along. Without wasting any time, Christy spliced the wires together, and the blue light flared up in the machine once more. In the blink of an eye, their location began flashing on the radar of a covert US command center thousands of miles away. American agencies had been searching for this flight for days, but a massive complication arose. The location was in a part of the Amazon that was completely outside US borders and their jurisdiction. On top of that, the airline's registration was foreign, which meant the US military could not legally set foot there. Meanwhile, back in America, Claire, a fierce government investigator leading the case, was launching back-to-back raids on the airline's headquarters. The company had hidden the crash for days. However, a cunning smile played on the face of Cora, the airline's shrewd manager. Blowing a puff of cigarette smoke, she said, "You can't do anything, ma'am. The plane crashed outside America. Only the Mexican army will go there, not you." But Cora did not know why Claire was fighting this case so personally. Here comes the biggest revelation of the story. Investigator Claire was none other than Jack's wife. And Jack was no ordinary passenger. He had gone on an undercover Pentagon mission to annihilate this deadly drug smuggling empire. With this revelation, it became an absolute certainty. Jack was not the killer. He was being made a scapegoat. But unaware of this truth, the people in the jungle were torturing him. Taking advantage of the night silence in the jungle, Christy stealthily sneaked to the spot where Jack was tied up, battered and bleeding. Christy was now convinced that Jack was being used as a pawn. Jack gasped, "Christy, if I were the killer, why would I only steal the bullets? I would have taken the whole gun and wiped everyone out in a single stroke." Christy saw the truth in his logic. Without wasting a single moment, she cut Jack's ropes with a knife. "Run, Jack, before Kevin kills you." The next morning, when the others saw that Jack's spot was empty, chaos erupted in the camp. Christy feigned a face as if she had been fast asleep, but Danny and Amy began to tremble with fear. Jack was now free, and it was obvious he would return to take his revenge, especially from Dr. Kevin. Kevin was completely petrified. Terrified, Danny grabbed Amy's hand. "We won't stay with these people. We are going into the jungle alone." Christy tried to stop them. "Don't be foolish, Danny. If we split up now, it will only make it easier for that unseen killer to hunt us down." The game of death was now at its final stage, and the 7 lives were hanging by a thin thread. But Danny says that despite staying together for so many days, many of their companions have already died. Therefore, it is better to split up now. Meanwhile, Jack also starts looking for a safe place far away from the camp to live alone, because now everyone except Christy considers him a killer. In the meantime, Danny reassures Amy that he won't let anything happen to her. He says that the GPS device is now active and the rescue team will arrive there soon. And that is exactly what happens. The Mexican army finally gets their signal. Now, an army team heads toward the Amazon jungle in a helicopter. On the other hand, Danny and Amy were sitting together in the jungle while the others had gone off in different directions. Suddenly, the sound of multiple gunshots echoes throughout the forest. Hearing this sound, everyone else runs back toward the camp at full speed. But when they arrive, they are completely shocked. Danny and Amy were both lying on the ground. Someone had shot them from behind and murdered them. Now, only 3 people were left alive in the jungle: Christy, Dr. Kevin, and Jack. All 3 start looking at each other with eyes full of suspicion, because it was now crystal clear that the real killer is one of these 3. The very person who killed everyone one by one from the beginning. Meanwhile, the army helicopter was gradually moving closer to that exact location. In the upcoming story, even bigger twists will unfold, revealing who the real killer is and who the ultimate mastermind was behind this entire plane crash. We will see the rest of the story in the next part.